A morning gone wrong, Mare Harrison pressed herself against the glass window of the coffee shop. Watching rain hammer the Seattle streets like tiny silver bullets, her phone screen was completely black, dead as a doornail. And her interview at Westbrook Technologies started in exactly 23 minutes. She had spent 3 months preparing for this opportunity, rehearsing answers until her roommate threatened to move out. And now everything was falling apart because she had forgotten to charge her phone overnight. Come on, she whispered, stuffing the useless device into her tote bag. Through the steamy window, she spotted a sleek black sedan pulling up to the curb, hazard lights blinking. It looked exactly like the luxury rideshare she had ordered through the app before her phone died. Same color, same model, same timing, without a second thought. Emma pushed through the coffee shop door and sprinted toward the vehicle, her portfolio clutched against her chest like a shield. Rain immediately soaked through her blazer, and she could feel her carefully styled hair beginning to frizz. She yanked open the back door and practically dove inside. Thank goodness you're here, she gasped, shaking water from her sleeves. I'm so sorry I'm late. My phone died, and I couldn't call. Please, we need to go to the Westbrook building downtown. The tech campus with the glass towers. Do you know it? The driver, a man in an expensive charcoal suit, turned slightly in his seat. He had sharp features, dark hair touched with silver at the temples, and the most intense gray eyes Emma had ever seen. For a moment, he simply stared at her. I know you're probably thinking I'm one of those nightmare passengers, Emma continued, too nervous to notice his expression. But I promise this is a legitimate emergency. This is my first day at a new job. Well, technically it's not my first day because I haven't actually started yet. It's more like a probationary introduction day, where they decide if they actually want to hire me permanently. She paused to catch her breath. I studied business communications at the University of Washington. Graduated with honors? I know that sounds like bragging, but I'm trying to paint a picture of why this matters so much. This company doesn't just hire anyone. They're incredibly selective. And if I walk in there looking like a drowned cat and 20 minutes late, they'll probably escort me right back out. The man's expression remained neutral, though something flickered in his eyes that might have been amusement. He shifted the car into gear and pulled smoothly into traffic. The unexpected confession? Oh, thank you. Emma leaned back in the seat, relief flooding through her. You're a lifesaver, literally. My career was about to die before it even started. She noticed the interior of the car was immaculate. Soft leather seats, subtle ambient lighting, that new car smell that suggested this vehicle had rolled off the lot recently. Wow, this is really nice. I mean, I know the luxury option costs more, but I figured for today it was worth it. First impressions matter, right? Although showing up in a fancy car and then being late kind of sends mixed messages. The driver made a right turn, his hand steady on the wheel. Emma caught a glimpse of an expensive watch on his wrist. Are you new to driving for the app? She asked, trying to make conversation. You seem very professional. Very quiet. Most drivers I get won't stop talking, which is fine, but sometimes you just want a peaceful ride to collect your thoughts. Silence. Emma shifted in her seat. Okay, so maybe you're the strong silent type. That's cool. I respect that. I should probably be reviewing my notes anyway, instead of talking your ear off. She pulled out her damp portfolio and tried to focus on the documents inside, but her nerves were too rattled. After a moment, she looked up at the back of his head. Can I tell you something weird? She said suddenly. I almost didn't apply for this job. My best friend Rachel convinced me to do it. She said I was selling myself short by staying at my old company. They were a small marketing firm, nice people, but no real growth potential. I was comfortable there, you know. Sometimes comfort is the enemy of progress. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, meeting hers briefly before returning to the road. Rachel also told me I needed to stop dating guys who treated ambition like a personality flaw. Emma continued, warming to her subject. My last boyfriend actually got upset when I stayed late to finish a project. He said I was married to my job. But here's the thing. I'm 26 years old. This is exactly the time I should be focused on building my career, right? There's plenty of time for relationships later. She laughed softly. Listen to me, spilling my entire life story to a stranger. You must think I'm completely unhinged. But there's something about rainy mornings and almost being late that just breaks down all your normal social filters. The car glided to a stop in front of an impressive glass structure that seemed to pierce the gray Seattle sky. The Westbrook building. Emma's stomach did a nervous flip. "We're here," the driver said. His voice was deep, cultured, with a hint of something that might have been carefully controlled amusement. "Right. Yes, here we are." Emma gathered her belongings hastily. "Thank you so much. You really saved me today. I'm going to give you 5 stars and a huge tip as soon as I charge my phone. You deserve it for putting up with my nervous rambling." She reached for the door handle, then paused. "Hey, do I look okay?" "Professional enough. My hair is probably a disaster." The driver turned to face her fully for the first time. Up close, he was even more striking than she had realized. There was an intensity to his features, a sharpness that suggested intelligence and power. "You look determined," he said finally. "That's worth more than perfect hair." Emma felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. "That might be the nicest thing anyone said to me all week." "Thank you." She climbed out of the car, clutching her portfolio, and hurried toward the building entrance. She didn't look back. Didn't see the slight smile that crossed the driver's face as he watched her disappear through the revolving doors. The revelation. The lobby of Westbrook Technologies was everything Emma had imagined. Sleek, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her entire apartment. She approached the reception desk, gave her name, and was directed to the 15th floor. The elevator ride felt eternal. Emma checked her reflection in the polished steel doors, trying to tame her rain-frizzed hair with her fingers. When the doors opened, a friendly woman in her 30s greeted her. "Emma Harrison. I'm Jennifer Cole, head of marketing operations. Welcome to Westbrook. Come with me." Everyone's gathering in the main conference room. Emma followed Jennifer down a corridor lined with abstract art and motivational quotes etched in glass. Through open office doors, she could see employees working at standing desks, engaged in animated conversations, typing furiously on sleek computers. "I have to warn you," Jennifer said over her shoulder. "Our CEO is very hands-on. He likes to meet all potential new hires personally. Some people find him intimidating, but he's actually quite fair. Just be yourself." They entered a large conference room where about 20 people were already seated. Emma found an empty chair near the middle and tried to look confident. Her heart was still racing from her frantic morning. "All right, everyone," Jennifer announced, moving to the front of the room. "Let's get started. I know you're all eager to meet our CEO and hear about the exciting projects we have planned." The door at the far end of the conference room opened. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Walking into the room, with the same measured confidence she had witnessed in the car, was the driver. The man she had spilled her entire life story to. The man she had told about her failed relationships and career anxieties. The man who now stood before the room in a perfectly tailored suit, commanding immediate attention and respect. "Good morning, Daniel," Westbrook said, his gray eyes sweeping across the assembled group before landing directly on Emma. That same hint of amusement played at the corners of, "Welcome to Westbrook Technologies. I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you." Emma felt her face burning. She wanted to sink through the floor, to disappear, to wake up and discover this was all a horrible nightmare. But Daniel's gaze held hers for just a moment longer than necessary, and in that moment, she saw something unexpected. Not mockery, not judgment, but genuine interest. "Before we begin the formal presentations," Daniel continued, addressing the room, but somehow still speaking directly to her, "I want you all to know that I value authenticity above everything else. In this company, we don't put on masks. We bring our whole selves to the work we do. Some of the best insights I've ever received have come from unexpected conversations in unexpected places." Emma's mind reeled. Was he talking about their car ride? Was this some kind of elaborate test? "Now then," Daniel said, finally breaking eye contact and moving to the presentation screen. "Let's talk about what makes Westbrook Technologies different from every other tech company in Seattle." As he began his presentation, Emma tried to focus on his words, on the slide showing impressive growth charts and innovative projects. But all she could think about was every embarrassing thing she had said in that car. Every personal detail she had shared with a stranger who turned out to be the most important person in this entire building. Jennifer leaned over and whispered, "You okay? You look a little pale." "Fine," Emma managed. "Just processing everything." That was the understatement of the century. She had just spent 15 minutes telling the CEO of Westbrook Technologies about her dating life, her insecurities, and her theory that comfort was the enemy of progress. She had asked him if her hair looked professional. She had promised to give him 5 stars on a rideshare app. As the meeting continued, Emma caught Daniel glancing in her direction several times. Each time, that slight smile played at his lips, as if he was enjoying a private joke. But there was something else in his expression too, something that made her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with embarrassment. When the presentation ended, Jennifer stood up. "All right, everyone will now meet individually with department heads. Emma Harrison, you're with me first. Let's head to my office." Emma gathered her belongings on shaky legs. As she moved toward the door, she felt rather than saw Daniel approach. "Miss Harrison," he said quietly, and she froze. "A word, please?" Jennifer gave them both a curious look, but nodded and stepped outside. Emma turned slowly to face him, prepared for the worst. Instead, Daniel extended his hand formally, as if they were meeting for the first time. "Welcome to Westbrook Technologies," he said. "I have a feeling you're going to make quite an impression here." She shook his hand, feeling the warmth and strength of his grip. "Mr. Westbrook, I am so incredibly sorry about this morning. I had no idea. My phone died, and I thought your car was my rideshare, and I just started talking without thinking." "Gathered that," he said, and now the amusement in his eyes was unmistakable. "You mentioned something about comfort being the enemy of progress. I've been thinking about that since you said it. It's quite insightful." Emma felt heat rising to her cheeks again. "I can't believe I told you all those things. I'm usually much more professional. I promise I'm not actually a disaster who goes around spilling personal information to strangers."
"Doubting that,"
Daniel said. "Although I should point out that I'm no longer a stranger. I'm your CEO, which means anything you need to tell me, you can. My door is always open." There was something in the way he said it that made Emma's heart skip. This wasn't just standard corporate pleasantries. There was weight behind his words, intention. "I'll keep that in mind," she said carefully, "though I might try to maintain slightly more professional boundaries going forward." "Boundaries are important," Daniel agreed. His gray eyes held hers. "But so is authenticity. Don't lose what made you special this morning just because you know who I am now."
Ow.
Before Emma could respond, Jennifer poked her head back in. "Sorry to interrupt, but we're on a tight schedule." Daniel stepped back, his professional demeanor sliding back into place like a mask. "Of course, Miss Harrison, I look forward to seeing what you accomplish here." As Emma followed Jennifer out of the conference room, her mind was spinning. This morning she had been worried about making a good first impression. Instead, she had accidentally told her new CEO things she barely admitted to herself, and somehow, impossibly. It seemed like that might have been exactly the right thing to do. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So she did what she always did when life threw her a curveball. She squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, and decided to see where this unexpected journey would take her. After all, she had told a stranger in a car that comfort was the enemy of progress. Maybe it was time to take her own advice. The assignment 3 days had passed since Emma's mortifying first encounter with Daniel Westbrook, and she had successfully managed to avoid any direct interaction with him. She kept her head down, worked diligently on the marketing materials Jennifer assigned her, and tried very hard not to think about those intense gray eyes or the way his voice had sounded when he said authenticity was working perfectly until Wednesday afternoon when her desk phone rang. "Emma Harrison speaking," she answered, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder while she continued typing. "Miss Harrison, this is Daniel Westbrook. Could you come to my office, please?" Emma's fingers froze over the keyboard. "Right now, if you're available." There was that hint of amusement again, as if he knew exactly how much this request flustered her. Of course. Mr. Westbrook, I'll be right there. She hung up and immediately looked down at her outfit. Navy slacks and a cream blouse. Professional, but not trying too hard. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. No coffee stains visible. She could do this. Jennifer looked up from her desk across the pod. CEO's office? On day 3? That's either really good or really bad. Thanks for the reassurance, Emma muttered. Grabbing a notepad, the executive floor was quieter than the marketing department. With thick carpets that absorbed sound and artwork that probably cost more than her college tuition, Daniel's assistant, an efficient-looking woman named Patricia, waved her through without ceremony. Emma knocked twice on the heavy wooden door. Come in. Daniel was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked downtown Seattle. His hands clasped behind his back. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across his office, which was surprisingly understated for a billionaire CEO. Clean lines. Minimal decoration, shelves lined with books rather than trophies. You wanted to see me? Emma said, hovering near the doorway. He turned, and that slight smile appeared. Close the door, please. And sit. Emma did as instructed, settling into one of the leather chairs facing his desk while he moved to sit across from her. Not behind the desk, she noticed. Across from her, as if this were a conversation between equals rather than boss and employee. I've been reviewing the work you've done this week, Daniel began, sliding a folder across the small table between them. Your campaign concepts for the new software launch are creative. Fresh perspective, strong understanding of our target demographic. Emma felt a surge of pride. Thank you. I really believe in what Westbrook Technologies is doing. I can tell. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with that analytical gaze that made her feel simultaneously exposed and seen. Which is why I'm assigning you to a special project. A special project. We have an investor presentation in 2 weeks. Major stakeholders, potential new partnerships, media coverage. The usual marketing team has handled these events for years, but I want something different this time. Something that captures the human element of what we do here. Emma's pulse quickened. You want me to design the presentation? I want you to lead it, Daniel corrected. Work with the team, certainly, but this is your vision. Your voice. She stared at him. Mr. Westbrook, I've been here 3 days. I'm aware. Else. Most people would consider that insane. Most people aren't me. He leaned forward slightly. You told me that comfort is the enemy of progress. Here's your chance to prove you believe that. Emma felt her competitive spirit flare. He was challenging her, testing her. Fine. She could do this. What's the catch? She asked. His eyebrows rose slightly. What makes you think there's a catch? Because billionaire CEOs don't hand major presentations to brand new employees without some kind of ulterior motive. Either you're testing me to see if I'll fail, or you're using me to shake up your established team, or there's something else going on that I'm not seeing yet. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Daniel laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. You're direct. I like that. Is that a yes to the ulterior motive? It's a yes to the test, he admitted. But not the kind you think. I'm not hoping you'll fail, Emma. I'm hoping you'll succeed in a way that proves my instincts right. Your instincts about what? He stood, moving back toward the windows. The afternoon light caught the silver in his hair. About the fact that the best ideas often come from people who aren't constrained by how things have always been done. About the value of bringing your whole self to your work. About authenticity being more powerful than polish. Emma recognized her own words from the car ride echoing in his statement. He had been listening, truly listening, even when she thought he was just a quiet driver, enduring her nervous rambling. I'll do it, she said firmly. But I need full creative control. If you're going to judge me on this, it has to be my vision, not a committee-approved compromise. Daniel turned to face her, and something flickered in his eyes that might have been respect. Agreed. Patricia will send you the relevant files and connect you with the team. Budget is flexible within reason. Timeline is not. Emma stood, smoothing her slacks. 2 weeks. I'll have something ready. I'm counting on it. She was almost to the door when his voice stopped her. Emma, she turned back. Yes. Thank you for being honest about the ulterior motive question. Most people would have just accepted the assignment without pushing back. Most people probably have better survival instincts than I do. That smile again. Or worse ones, depending on your perspective. The late-night crisis 10 days later, Emma was running on coffee, determination, and approximately 4 hours of sleep per night. The presentation was coming together beautifully. A multimedia experience that showcased not just Westbrook Technologies' innovations, but the human stories behind them. She had interviewed employees, gathered testimonials, created narrative arcs that would make even the most technical information accessible and emotionally resonant. But there was a problem. The video component, the centerpiece of the entire presentation, wasn't rendering properly. The file kept corrupting, and they were now less than 48 hours from the event. Emma had been in the office since 6 that morning, and it was now approaching midnight. The tech team had gone home hours ago. After assuring her they would fix it first thing tomorrow, Emma didn't have until tomorrow. She needed it fixed now. She was on the verge of tears, staring at the error message on her screen for the 100th time when she heard footsteps in the hallway. She looked up to see Daniel Westbrook approaching, still in his dress shirt and slacks, but with his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. "You're still here," he said, though it wasn't really a question. "The video won't render," Emma said, her voice cracking slightly with frustration. "Everything else is perfect, but this one piece, the most important piece, keeps failing." Daniel moved around her desk to look at her computer screen. He was close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive. "May I?" He gestured to her keyboard. "You know how to fix rendering issues?" "I built my first computer when I was 12, he said, already typing commands she didn't understand. "Before I was a CEO, I was a programmer." Most people forget that. Emma watched as his fingers flew across the keyboard, opening programs and running diagnostics with practiced ease. There was something unexpectedly intimate about watching him work, seeing this different side of the polished executive she had come to know. "Why are you here so late?" she asked quietly. "I could ask you the same question." "I'm here because I'm trying to prove I deserve this opportunity." "What's your excuse?" He paused in his typing, glancing at her with those penetrating gray eyes. "Maybe I'm here because I wanted to see how you handle pressure. Or maybe I'm here because I saw your office light on and wanted to make sure you weren't building a panic nest." "A what?" "Jennifer mentioned you've been sleeping under your desk." Emma felt her face flush. "Only twice. And I had a blanket." "Emma." His voice was gentle but firm. "You don't have to kill yourself to impress me." "Yes, I do," she said honestly. "You handed me an impossible opportunity. The only way to honor that is to be impossible back." Something shifted in his expression, a softness she hadn't seen before. "There," he said, turning back to the computer. "Try rendering it now." Emma held her breath as she clicked the render button. The progress bar appeared, moving smoothly this time, no error messages. "Oh my God," she whispered. "How did you do that?" The codec was outdated. "Simple fix, once you know where to look." He straightened, rolling his shoulders. "Go home, Emma. Get some sleep. You've done excellent work. Don't undermine it by presenting while exhausted." She wanted to argue, but the adrenaline that had been keeping her going suddenly evaporated, leaving her completely drained. "You're right. I should go." They walked to the elevator together in comfortable silence. The building was eerily quiet at this hour, just the hum of climate control and the distant sound of cleaning crews on other floors. "Can I tell you something?" Emma said as they waited for the elevator. "You seem to tell me everything eventually." She laughed, despite herself. "Fair point. I wanted to say thank you. Not just for fixing the video, but for trusting me with this project. I know you're taking a risk." "The only risk would be not taking risks," Daniel said. The elevator arrived, and they stepped inside. "You remind me of why I started this company in the first place. It wasn't about the money or the status. It was about creating something meaningful. Do you miss it?" Emma asked. "The creating part, before it all became about managing and delegating?" He considered this as they descended. "Sometimes." But then someone like you comes along and reminds me that creation takes many forms. What you've built with this presentation, that's creation too. The elevator doors opened to the parking garage. Emma's modest sedan was parked in the visitors section, looking distinctly out of place next to the luxury vehicles in the reserved spots. "That's me," she said, gesturing to her car. "The one that definitely isn't a high-end rideshare." Daniel smiled at the reference to their first meeting. "Emma." She turned back. "Yes. Whatever happens with this presentation, you've already proven yourself. Don't lose sight of that." The warmth in his voice made something flutter in her chest. Something dangerous and entirely inappropriate given their professional relationship. "Good night, Mr. Westbrook." "Daniel," he corrected softly. "When it's just us, you can call me Daniel." Emma's breath caught. That seems like crossing a line. Maybe. Or maybe it's just being authentic. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she simply nodded and walked to her car. As she drove away, she could see him in her rearview mirror, standing in the garage, watching until her taillights disappeared around the corner. The unexpected request. The presentation was a triumph. Emma stood at the front of the conference hall, surrounded by impressed investors and journalists, feeling like she was floating. Everything had worked perfectly. The videos had played without a hitch. The narrative had resonated, and Daniel's closing remarks had tied it all together with the kind of visionary leadership that reminded everyone why Westbrook Technologies was dominating their industry. Several people had already approached her with business cards, complimenting her work, asking about her background. Jennifer had actually hugged her in the hallway, whispering that she had just secured her permanent position and probably a promotion. But the person Emma most wanted to talk to was Daniel, and he was currently surrounded by a cluster of executives, including a woman who seemed particularly attached to his arm. "That's Natasha Brennan," Jennifer said, following Emma's gaze. "Major investor. She's been trying to get Daniel to attend her charity gala for months. Apparently, she's not taking no for an answer." Emma watched as Natasha, a striking woman in her 40s with perfect posture and predatory elegance, leaned close to Daniel, laughing at something he said. He was being polite, professional, but Emma could see the slight tension in his shoulders. "He looks uncomfortable," Emma observed. "He always looks like that around her. She's brilliant with money, but terrible with boundaries. Last year, she cornered him at a similar event and didn't let him leave for 2 hours. He missed his own keynote speech. As if sensing their discussion, Daniel's eyes found Emma's across the room. For just a moment, their gazes locked. She saw something in his expression that looked almost like a plea for help. Before she could think better of it, Emma was moving across the room. "Mr. Westbrook," she said brightly, interrupting Natasha mid-sentence. "I'm so sorry to intrude, but we have that urgent call with the Tokyo office in 5 minutes. The time zone difference is quite tricky." Daniel's expression cleared instantly. "Of course, Ms. Brennan, if you'll excuse me." Natasha's eyes narrowed as she assessed Emma. "I'm sure the Tokyo office can wait a few more minutes." "Unfortunately." "They're rather insistent," Emma continued smoothly. "Something about the contracts we discussed earlier. Very time-sensitive."
Oh.
"Then I'll walk with you," Natasha said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Emma felt a flash of panic, but Daniel intervened. "That won't be necessary. Emma and I need to review several confidential documents before the call. Thank you for your continued support, Natasha. Patricia will be in touch about your gala." He placed a gentle hand on Emma's elbow and guided her away before Natasha could protest further. They walked quickly down the corridor, around a corner, and into an empty conference room. Only then did Daniel release her arm and let out a breath that sounded almost like laughter. "Tokyo office," he said. "It was the first thing I could think of." Was it too obvious? It was perfect. He loosened his tie slightly. "Thank you. Natasha means well, but she doesn't understand the concept of personal space. Jennifer mentioned she's been trying to get you to attend her gala for 6 months. She's convinced that if I just show up once, I'll become a regular fixture in her social circle." He moved to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. I appreciate her investment in the company, but I'm not interested in becoming anyone's trophy guest. Emma leaned against the conference table. So go with someone. Bring a date. That usually sends a pretty clear message. Daniel turned to face her. And where exactly would I find someone willing to endure an evening of tedious conversation and artificial networking? There was something in the way he asked the question that made Emma's heart race. I'm sure you know plenty of people. I know a lot of people, he agreed. But I don't particularly like most of them. The silence that followed was charged with something unspoken. Emma knew she should leave, should make an excuse, and return to the celebration in the main hall. Instead, she heard herself saying, "When is the gala?" "Friday night." "Why?" "I could go with you." "As your colleague?" "You're +1, for professional purposes only. It would solve your Natasha problem, and I could use the networking opportunity." Daniel studied her for a long moment. "You understand what you're suggesting? These events are exhausting. Fake smiles, strategic conversations, people who only care about what you can do for them. Sounds like my family's Thanksgiving dinner. But with better clothes?" He laughed, and Emma felt absurdly proud of making that happen. "Are you certain? I don't want you to feel obligated." "I'm not obligated. I'm volunteering. Consider it payback for fixing my video rendering crisis." Yeah, that was hardly equivalent, and consider it me wanting to see you in a tuxedo. The words were out before Emma could stop them. She felt her face flame. That came out wrong. "I meant, as in, I assume you wear a tuxedo to these things. And I've only seen you in business suits, so it would be professionally speaking. Interesting to observe the full range of executive formal wear." Daniel was definitely trying not to laugh now. "You're adorable when you're flustered. I'm your employee when I'm flustered. Can we pretend I didn't just say that embarrassing thing?" "Not a chance." He moved closer, and Emma was suddenly very aware of how empty the conference room was. "Friday night. I'll have a car pick you up at 7. "And Emma?" "Yes. Thank you. For the presentation today, for rescuing me from Natasha, and for making this company feel less like work and more like an adventure." Emma's throat felt tight. "That's what I'm here for. Adventure and questionable social commentary. Perfect combination." He reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. A gesture so unexpected and intimate that Emma forgot how to breathe. "I should let you get back to your celebration. You earned it." He left the conference room first, leaving Emma standing alone, her heart pounding, her skin still tingling where his fingers had briefly touched her face. This was dangerous territory. Daniel Westbrook was her boss, a billionaire, completely out of her league in every measurable way. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see were his gray eyes looking at her like she was the most interesting person in the world. And when she remembered his voice saying, "You're adorable when you're flustered," she couldn't help but smile. Friday night, a gala, a fake date that would probably feel entirely too real. What could possibly go wrong? The Gelima had changed outfits 7 times before finally settling on a deep emerald dress that Rachel had insisted she buy 4 emergencies requiring elegance. The fabric hugged her curves without being inappropriate, and the color made her eyes look brighter than usual. She had swept her hair up in a loose updo, leaving a few strategic tendrils to frame her face. "This is not a date," she told her reflection firmly. "This is professional networking with fancy appetizers." Her reflection didn't look convinced. The car that arrived at 7 was not Daniel's personal sedan, but rather a proper limousine, complete with a driver who held the door open and greeted her by name. Emma slid into the leather interior and found Daniel already waiting, looking devastatingly handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. "You were right," Emma said before she could stop herself. "The tuxedo is definitely worth observing." Ouch. Daniel's eyes crinkled with amusement. "And you look stunning. That color is remarkable on you." Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you. Rachel helped me choose it. She has much better fashion sense than I do." Rachel sounds wise. Rachel is chaos in human form, but she knows clothes. Emma settled into the seat, trying to ignore how good Daniel smelled. "So what's the game plan for tonight? Any particular topics I should avoid? Names I need to remember?" Just be yourself, Daniel said. That's all I need. The last time I was myself around you, I gave you unsolicited life advice and asked if my hair looked okay. Exactly perfect. The gala was held at one of Seattle's most exclusive hotels, a historic building that had been renovated to combine old-world charm with modern luxury. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and was filled with people who looked like they had stepped out of a fashion magazine. Emma felt Daniel's hand settle lightly on the small of her back as they entered, a gesture that was both protective and possessive. Several heads turned their way, and Emma heard the whispers starting immediately. Who is she? I've never seen her before. Daniel Westbrook, with a date. That's new. Natasha Brennan materialized almost immediately, her eyes sharp as she assessed Emma's dress, her hair, her shoes. Daniel, darling, so glad you could make it. And you brought a guest? Natasha, you remember Emma Harrison from Westbrook Technologies? She led our investor presentation last week. Oh yes, the presentation girl. Natasha's smile was all teeth. How sweet that you brought your employee. Very progressive of you. Emma felt the dismissal like a slap, but she kept her expression neutral. It's lovely to be here. The venue is beautiful, isn't it? I'm on the board, you know. We raised over $2 million last year for children's literacy programs. Natasha placed a hand on Daniel's arm. Daniel, there are several people I absolutely must introduce you to. If you'll excuse us, Emma? It wasn't a question. Natasha was already pulling Daniel away. Emma found herself standing alone in the middle of the glittering ballroom, feeling suddenly very out of place. This was a mistake. She didn't belong here, among people who measured worth in millions and wore watches that cost more than her annual salary. She was a girl who had once mistaken a billionaire for a rideshare driver, and now she was playing dress-up in his world. You look like you could use a drink. Emma turned to find a friendly-faced man in his 50s, holding 2 champagne flutes. He offered her one with a kind smile. That obvious? Emma accepted the glass gratefully. Only to someone who's been to approximately 1,000 of these events and knows that look of existential dread. He extended his hand. Robert Chen. I run a venture capital firm downtown.
Emma Harrison.
I work at Westbrook Technologies. Ah, you're the one who did that remarkable presentation. I was there. Very impressive work, especially for someone so new to the company. Emma felt some of her confidence return. Thank you. It was a challenging project, but I had a lot of support. Daniel. Westbrook is smart to recognize talent when he sees it. Robert glanced across the room to where Daniel was still trapped in conversation with Natasha and 2 other executives. He doesn't usually bring dates to these things. You must be special.
We're colleagues,
Emma said quickly. This is purely professional. Robert's eyes twinkled with knowing amusement. Of course. And I'm sure the way he's been glancing over here every 30 seconds to make sure you're all right is also purely professional. Ah. Emma followed his gaze and found Daniel's eyes on her. Even from across the room, she could see the tension in his posture, the way he was clearly trying to extract himself from the conversation. When their eyes met, he mouthed sorry, and she smiled to let him know she was fine. He's protective of his team, Emma said, but even she could hear how weak that sounded. Robert sipped his champagne. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're handling yourself remarkably well. These events can be brutal, especially when certain people decide to mark their territory. Is it that obvious? Natasha Brennan has been pursuing Daniel for years. She doesn't like competition. I'm not competition. I'm just his employee. Keep telling yourself that, Robert said kindly. But I've known Daniel for a decade, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. That's not a professional gaze, Miss Harrison. That's something else entirely. Before Emma could respond, Daniel finally managed to break away from Natasha's circle and was making his way back to her. His expression was apologetic. I'm sorry about that, he said. Natasha has a talent for monopolizing conversations. I was just talking with Mr. Chen about venture capital. Emma turned to include Robert, but he had mysteriously disappeared into the crowd. Or I was. I think he's a conversational wizard who vanishes when his work is done. Daniel smiled. Robert is good people. One of the few genuine ones in this room. He offered her his arm. Would you like to get some air? The balcony is usually less crowded. That sounds perfect. They made their way through the ballroom, stopping occasionally when someone wanted to speak with Daniel. Each time, he made sure to introduce Emma as my colleague who created our investor presentation, making it clear she was more than just arm candy. Emma noticed the surprised looks, the reassessments, the grudging respect. The balcony overlooked the city, lights sparkling in the darkness like earthbound stars. The October air was cool, but not uncomfortable, and Emma took a deep breath, feeling some of the tension leave her shoulders. "Thank you for coming tonight," Daniel said quietly. "I know this isn't your usual environment. It's not, but it's interesting. Like anthropological research, observing the natural habitat of the extremely wealthy." He laughed. "And what have you concluded from your observations?" "That most of them are deeply unhappy, despite having everything money can buy. That they measure their worth by external metrics, rather than internal satisfaction. That they've forgotten how to have genuine conversations, because everything is a transaction." She paused. "Present company excluded, of course." "Don't exclude me so quickly," Daniel said, leaning against the railing. "I was one of them for a long time. Caught up in the game, the competition, the constant need to prove I belonged at the top. It took me years to realize I was succeeding at something that didn't actually matter." Emma moved to stand beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "What changed?" "My father died 2 years ago. Heart attack, completely sudden. He was a brilliant businessman, built an empire from nothing, and died at his desk working on a merger. At his funeral, hundreds of people came, all talking about his accomplishments, his wealth, his legacy, but none of them really knew him. He had spent so much time building success that he forgot to build a life." "I'm sorry," Emma said softly. "I don't want that to be my story," Daniel continued. "I don't want to reach the end and realize I've spent decades in rooms full of people I don't actually like, having conversations that don't actually matter. That's why I was so intrigued when you got in my car that morning. You were just this force of nature, completely authentic, saying exactly what you felt. No filter, no agenda, just honest humanity." Emma felt her throat tighten. "That's a very kind way of saying I have no social boundaries." "That's my way of saying you reminded me what real connection feels like." He turned to face her fully. "Emma, I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond." Her heart started pounding. "Okay, bringing you to this gala wasn't just about avoiding Natasha or giving you networking opportunities. I wanted to spend time with you outside the office. I wanted to see if what I've been feeling these past few weeks is real or just some fantasy I've built up in my head." He took a breath. "I'm attracted to you. Not just physically, though that's certainly there. I'm attracted to your mind, your honesty, your creativity, the way you make me laugh without trying. I know this is complicated. I'm your boss. There are power dynamics at play, and I would never want to make you uncomfortable or put your job at risk." Emma's mind was racing. This was Daniel Westbrook, billionaire CEO, telling her he had feelings for her. This shouldn't be happening. This couldn't be happening. And yet, standing here in the moonlight with him, looking at her like she was something precious, she couldn't bring herself to care about all the logical reasons this was a bad idea. "Are you finished?" she asked quietly. "Yes, good. Because I need to tell you something too." She took a breath, gathering her courage. "That morning when I got in your car, I wasn't just running late for a job interview. I was running away from a life that felt too small, too safe, too predictable. I wanted something more, something that scared me, something that would push me to become whoever I was supposed to be. And then I walked into that conference room and saw you standing there, and I realized the universe had given me exactly what I asked for in the most complicated way possible. Close enough to see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. I'm attracted to you too. I've been trying not to be, because it's inappropriate and potentially career-ending and 1,000 other reasons why this is a terrible idea. But then you fixed my video rendering crisis at midnight, and you looked at me like I was brilliant during my presentation. And you touched my face in that conference room like I was something worth treasuring. And I can't keep pretending I don't feel something." Madania breathed her name like a prayer, but she continued, placing a hand on his chest to maintain some distance. "We need to be smart about this. I don't want special treatment at work. I don't want people thinking I slept my way to success. I don't want our professional relationship to be compromised by our personal feelings. Agreed, Daniel said immediately. Anything between us happens outside of office hours. At work, you're my employee, and I'm your boss. No favoritism, no inappropriate behavior. But here now, when it's just us. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing gently across her skin. Can we just be Daniel and Emma? Two people who found each other in the most unexpected way and want to see where this goes. Emma leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. That sounds scary. It's terrifying, he agreed. But you said comfort is the enemy of progress. Maybe it's time we both take our own advice. When did you become so wise? About 15 minutes ago, when you compared wealthy people to anthropological subjects. Emma laughed, and then Daniel was kissing her, his lips soft and warm and perfect. It was a gentle kiss, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back, pouring weeks of suppressed feeling into the connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma rested her forehead against his. We're definitely going to regret this tomorrow, she whispered. Probably, Daniel agreed. But right now, I don't care. The crisis Monday morning arrived with brutal reality. Emma walked into Westbrook Technologies feeling like everyone could see what had happened. Friday night written across her forehead in neon letters. She and Daniel had stayed on that balcony for another hour, talking and kissing and making plans to have dinner that weekend. Somewhere far from the office and prying eyes, but now. In the harsh fluorescent light of day, Emma felt the weight of what they were attempting. An inter-office relationship, particularly one involving the CEO, was complicated under the best circumstances. If anyone found out before they were ready to go public, it could damage both of their reputations. Jennifer was already at her desk when Emma arrived. Good morning. How was the gala? I want all the details. It was educational, Emma said carefully. Met some interesting people, ate some overpriced food, watched rich people dance badly, and Daniel. How was it being his +1? Professional. We discussed company strategy and networking opportunities. Jennifer looked skeptical. Uh-huh. So the fact that you're currently blushing has nothing to do with him. I'm not blushing. The coffee is hot. Sure it is. Jennifer grinned. Well, whatever happened or didn't happen, you should know that half the office is gossiping about it. Apparently someone from accounting was at the gala and saw you two on the balcony, looking very cozy. Emma's stomach dropped. Cozy how? Use your imagination. The rumor mill is working overtime. This was exactly what Emma had been afraid of. She hadn't even been back at work for an hour, and already people were talking. She needed to do damage control. Needed to make sure this didn't spiral into something that would hurt Daniel or the company. She was still contemplating her options when her desk phone rang. Daniel's extension. Emma, could you come to my office, please? We need to discuss the quarterly reports. His voice was purely professional, but Emma heard the underlying tension. He knew about the rumors, too. Patricia waved her through without comment, though Emma thought she detected a knowing look in the assistant's eyes. Daniel was standing by his window, hands in his pockets, every inch the controlled executive. Close the door, he said without turning around. Emma did, her heart hammering. I heard about the rumors, as did I. My head of HR has already asked me about our relationship status, citing company policy about disclosure. He finally turned to face her, and his expression was carefully neutral. This is exactly what we wanted to avoid. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. We both knew this was a risk. He moved to his desk, picking up a folder. I've been thinking about our options. We could go public with the relationship, make it official and transparent. Or we could deny everything, claim it was a professional evening that got misinterpreted. Or, he paused. Or, Emma prompted. Or one of us could leave the company. Eliminate the professional complication entirely. Emma felt like she'd been punched. You're asking me to quit? No, Daniel said quickly. I'm saying I would leave. Step down as CEO, hand the reins to my coup, Remove the power dynamic from the equation. She stared at him. Daniel, you can't leave Westbrook Technologies. This company is your legacy, your life's work, and your... He stopped, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Emma, I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Maybe ever. I'm not going to let corporate politics dictate my personal life. I'm not worth you sacrificing everything you've built. That's not your decision, too. McVeigh stood on opposite sides of his desk, the space between them feeling like a chasm. Emma thought about the past few weeks, the excitement of the challenges, the thrill of proving herself, the unexpected joy of falling for someone who saw her as an equal. She thought about that morning in his car when she had talked about comfort being the enemy of progress. She had meant it then. She needed to mean it now. I have a better idea, Emma said slowly. What if we do neither? What if we just keep working together professionally, maintain appropriate boundaries at the office, and let the rumors die down naturally? People will get bored if there's nothing to gossip about. We can continue seeing each other outside of work, but we keep it completely separate from our professional lives.